Today on Mother Mayhem.
Invisible children become just that, invisible. They aren't seen, they aren't heard, and they aren't considered. They often feel dismissed, and their needs and emotions are regularly ignored or minimized. Welcome back to Mother Mayhem, the Narcissistic Abuse Recovery Podcast for Daughters. I'm your host, Heather Gray, and man, oh man, I am glad to be back, and I am so very glad you are here. I am glad, too, to be jumping right back in it with you. Today, I get to introduce you to Joan, after Kathleen Turner's character in Romancing the Stone and Jewel of the Nile. And of course, again, I'm dating myself with this reference, but when I was a kid, I absolutely just loved those movies. They were action and adventure, and Joan always ended up being more capable than she thought she would be, even if she made a few missteps along the way. Joan, who you're meeting today, will tell you that she's been living a very vanilla life, but that if she could take it back and make some decisions differently, she would choose to add a little bit more spice. She would choose to show up more in her own life. She would choose what she loves unapologetically without worrying that what she wants for herself might make other people feel bad. So you know how we do it around here. Here's Joan, and I'm going to find you all on the other side. Heather. As soon as I typed your name, I started weeping. So I'm really glad to know that I am writing to a fellow crier. You sure are, girlfriend. Very much so. You sure are. You have mentioned on the show how you heard a whisper that led you to starting this podcast. And I am so glad you listened. And also, I know you're not going to think I'm crazy when I tell you that I just heard a whisper that said, "Tell Heather. Tell Heather." And so I'm listening to that whisper and I'm telling you, and just knowing I'm telling you is making everything feel at least a little bit more okay for the moment. I am in pharmaceutical sales and I am at work at this very moment. My district manager just met with me and left my office and I'm shaking. In this moment, right now, I know what it feels like when you tell us we abandon ourselves. And I am feeling a lot of very different things all at the same time. Heather, I'm fucking good at my job. I've been with this company for years, and I am regularly relied upon to do sales training and mentorship of the new sales associates. My district manager just asked me if I would please consider doing a company-wide presentation at our yearly conference in Vegas. Not everyone gets an invitation like that. What did I do with mine? I told him I would be happy to do it, of course, but I recommended that he first ask a colleague of mine. She and I are work friends, Heather, and she has mentioned on several occasions that she just wants leadership to really see her, and she wants to be able to help more people in the company. I got that invitation, and all I could think about was telling her that I got the invite and how crushed she would be that she wasn't asked. Because that was a conversation I couldn't imagine having. I gave up the opportunity. She never would have wanted me to do that. She would be happy for me. I believe that. I just couldn't tolerate the idea of outshining her. Heather, I can look out my office window right now at the car I will be driving home. It's a nice, respectable sedan. Nothing to complain about, but it's not the car I went to the dealership for. The one I wanted was a frisky two-seater. A frisky two-seater. I love that. I worried about what people would think of me driving to work meetings in my sporty car. I worried I would alienate potential clients if they perceived me in a certain way because of my car. I worried, too, about what my car would look like in comparison to the SUVs and minivans my friends drive. It's just me, myself, and I these days. I don't have kids, and I don't need an SUV or a minivan. But I don't want to seem different or stand out, so I picked a vanilla car when I really wanted some spice. And Heather, whew, I'm sobbing now. Okay. we're going to get you through this, Joan. We're going to get you through this. And Heather, I'm sobbing hard right now. The condo I'm returning home to after this. It's fine. It's nice. I have furnished it well. But Heather, I turned down an opportunity to put down an offer on what would have been a dream home for me. A little lake house with a shiny, shimmering view of the lake. The features in that home were all new and modern looking, and the view was incredible. The lake could be seen from several sides of the home, and I keep thinking about the wraparound deck and how coffee probably tastes better there. I couldn't imagine inviting my friends there. I couldn't imagine them feeling comfortable in my home, and I worried they would think I was bragging or showing off. Heather, I feel it so deeply right in this moment, over and over and over again, abandoning myself in favor of others' comfort, even when I haven't even been told they're uncomfortable. My work friend has never said anything but compliments about my success in the company. And when someone is hurting or struggling, she always sends them my way. I know she trusts me. My friends outside of work have never wanted anything more than anything I want for myself. One best friend's mother has adopted me after my own mother stopped talking to me a few years back. And there it is, right there, right? I'm not the shrink, of course, but I know. This isn't about my coworker. It's not about my friends. It's about my motherfucking mother. She isn't even in my life, and still her influence is everywhere. And how I see myself, how I think about myself, and how I instinctively imagine others are going to think of me. She looked down her nose at me when I went to college for business. She called me one of them. When I got my MBA, she accused me of showing off. I bought a designer handbag and she called me a real housewife bitch. I've always thought that I escaped the wrath of my mother by being completely different than her. I have a job. I have good friends. I'm a woman of faith. I volunteer. I'm a community member. I'm social. My physical health is good. I'm a hiker. Crying jags like this aside, I usually feel pretty good emotionally. But Heather, why don't I choose things I love? Why don't I allow myself to get in the spotlight? Why did I just take a vacation and minimize the experience? Why do I only show up just enough and no more? I love to hike, but I have wanted to rock climb, and I've only gotten myself so far as getting myself to the climbing wall of a gym. I'm pretty sure my mom is a covert narcissist, but I have always just known she was full of shit. I never thought she got to me. When I noticed that she hadn't talked to me in a while, it was unremarkable. She didn't flame out. I shared with a friend's mom and she just hugged me and said, "You're mine now. You're ours. And you always have a home here," even though I was 32 at the time. Now I sit at 36 and all I can say is, what the actual fuck? How did I get here? Where do I even go? How does this happen to someone, and how does someone stop it from still happening? There you go. I'm not even sure that those are my questions, but one of my favorite things about the show is how you always know what we need to hear, even when we haven't asked, and I know for sure I need to hear something today. Lay it on me, ass kicking welcome, I'm ready. Okay, Joan. First things first, we have to let the other listeners in on what you and I already know. I got this letter from you right after I announced that I would be traveling for July and wouldn't be doing the show for the month. Joan wrote me in distress on the day of her distress, and I just saw an immediate opportunity to coach her through a do-over on that Vegas conference. We worked through that she could give the manager a call, tell her that she had had cold feet, and ask if the invitation was still open. And of course it was. So Joan will indeed be presenting at her company's conference later this year. And she's helping her work friend with her application to be a presenter during one of the conference's breakout sessions. So that crisis has been averted. And it's important to me that you guys all know this. You can always take a do-over with transparent and honest communication. For some of you, your people-pleasing or conflict-avoidant tendencies are going to kick in before wise mind even has a chance to enter the scene. That's what you heard happen with Joan. It's okay to go back and communicate what you wish you had said the first time. Anytime you guys catch yourselves in a coulda, shoulda, woulda, why don't you just simply try starting again? You might get a no. The opportunity might have passed. That happens sometimes. You might disappoint someone if you're turning a yes you've stated into a no, but it's not like staying quiet and sitting in regret doesn't hurt you. That hurts you too. So often people give all this energy to how they will feel if they go and do A, B, C. They imagine how it would feel if they did A, B, and C and they didn't get it, but they don't stop to ask themselves what it would feel like if they didn't even try, if they didn't even try to show up for themselves or to seek that do over. If you're going to base decisions off of what it might feel like, and it's not my recommendation ever that you guys do that, at least give yourselves the grace to offer yourselves a fair shake and consider on all sides how the situation might make you feel. Now, I walked Joan through two responses. One was telling her manager that she had made a mistake in declining such an opportunity, that she was honored by the invitation and asked if the opportunity was still available to her. Then I encouraged her to get ahead of all of it just by talking to her friend and telling her friend how she had been feeling. So she told her friend about the invitation, how she had initially turned it down and why, and then also how she had taken a do over and talked to the boss. Her friend was gracious and supported, and then, wait for it, told Joan that of course she wants to help the company in some way, but she knows that she doesn't yet have the experience to speak on the main stage. She wasn't even ready for that opportunity that Joan turned down, and she knew it. And then she asked for Joan's help in fixing it, and in doing so, in getting herself ready. See the power of transparent communication right there, my friends. Telling people what you want them to think so you can stop worrying about what it is they think. Now, before diving more into Joan's letter and her questions, it was important to me that I not make any assumptions. So I talked to Joan a little bit about her childhood and I got a little bit more information than what she had shared in the letter. Joan's desire to hide, to stay small, and her tendency to choose vanilla instead of standing out had me thinking that she was either the invisible child in her family or the golden child. And Joan's response, when she said it, brought tears to my eyes as she told me, no one in my family was allowed to outshine my mother in any way. She always needed to be the center of attention. She wouldn't have tolerated having a golden child. She needed my dad and us kids to all be defective in some way. She called my dad spineless and mocked him for not climbing the corporate ladder. And my two older sisters were embarrassments, ungrateful and selfish. I had it easy. I wasn't called any of those things. She was so busy insulting them that she hadn't even had time to get to me. And that's why Joan thinks she escaped the wrath of her mom. That's why she thinks she got away with something. And as a result, invalidates the experience of incredible neglect that she lived through in her childhood. It's also why she thinks her experience doesn't quite count. As the invisible child in her family, Joan was simply ignored as her mother always took center stage. Joan told me that on more than one occasion she would be forgotten and left behind at home or at places on the rare occasion that the family did anything together. Invisible children become just that, invisible. They aren't seen, they aren't heard, and they aren't considered. They often feel dismissed, and their needs and emotions are regularly ignored or minimized. Invisible children often end up being responsible for their mother's emotional needs in some way. They'll find themselves walking on eggshells, trying to avoid their mother's wrath. Joan, I think you must have gotten exceptionally good at this part, right? You got really good at not calling any attention to yourself. You didn't want a ripple to turn into a wave. Your tendency and habit as an adult to avoid the spotlight and avoid attention, well, that likely started for you in childhood. You learned to stay out of the way, and I think you thought that meant you weren't abused. Joan, I think that's why you tell me you escaped her wrath. But now you know, right? Now you know you're starting to feel it a little bit. You were abused, Joan. Neglect, it is abuse. You deserved so much more than you got. Your needs were ignored. You were deprived of attention, affection, and care. Your world growing up didn't feel any safer for you than it did for your sisters. Being on eggshells, waiting for that other shoe to drop, dodging any or all attention, all of that made your life and your development really, really hard. What a thing you have done to build yourself a life outside of all of that. And I imagine that's kind of hard for you to think about because you weren't used to thinking about the life you have built as accomplishing something. And now that I've said it out loud, you might be feeling a little bit like you have to start looking over your shoulder, or you might feel uncomfortable in your belly. I think this is where I take advantage of that whisper you heard that told you to tell me all of this. That whisper probably also wants you to listen and really hear me and what I have to say. That whisper, Joan, is the part of you that knows what you never had and what you always deserved. That whisper is the part of you that probably knows you weren't really unscathed and unmarked by your childhood. It's the part of you that knows and sees that you have indeed been affected by your upbringing, but also by your present day. Your mom, she just stopped talking to you. And I don't know where your sisters or your dad are in your life now, but it strikes me that as an adult, you still ended up in that invisible child role. Your mother broke off her relationship with you and couldn't even be bothered to tell you. God, Joan, it's awful. And maybe you don't think it's all that awful because she's awful. So you don't see yourself as experiencing very much loss there in regards to her. And you're probably not feeling like you're missing anything without her in your life. But a mother who just stops contact for no reason, that's not nothing. It is most certainly something. Now, Joan, in your letter, I could feel your trust in me. I could feel it again when you were interested in and willing to work with me on taking that do-over with your boss for the conference presentation. And right now, as I continue this really important conversation we're having together, I need you to know that I am continuing to lean on that trust. I hold it and I honor it, and I'm grateful for it. You asked me to read in between the lines of what it is you had to say, but what I have to say might hurt you a little bit, and it might be a little hard to hear. My gut instinct is that your whisper was your wise mind telling you that you're ready now. Trauma brain has protected you, and it has walled you off just a bit. But I suspect, Joan, that in all of the work to stay vanilla, to not make waves, to stay in between the lines, that you haven't learned to really feel your feelings fully or completely. I think it's probably a survival tactic you've used and you've relied on as a way from disconnecting from yourself and your experience. And you have moved through the world fine-tuning your perfectionistic and people-pleasing tendencies. You are tuned into the needs and the comfort of others and not yourself. Because of course you are. That's how you survived, Joan. That's how you did it. That's how you got this far. It's how you got yourself through all of this and out of all of this. And I honestly, to be really frank here, I think your trauma brain did one hell of a job. I just don't think you need her to be on guard anymore. I think it's okay for her to go off duty. It's okay for you to start getting to know yourself and learning about yourself and understanding your preferences. It's also okay, Joan, to start looking at the feelings, at the things that you've pushed down. It's okay to look at your childhood hurts, and it's okay if you find that they still hurt, even though you think that things turned out okay in the end. I hear that you like your life now, but that doesn't mean you weren't abused or neglected or that your childhood hasn't left its mark. It's also true that looking at your childhood and validating its hurt doesn't make you any less successful or your accomplishments any less significant. All of it is true, Joan. All of it. I also want to bring you back to this part in your letter where you said, I have a job. I have good friends. I'm a woman of faith. I volunteer. I'm a community member. I'm social. My physical health is good. I'm a hiker. Joan, I'm impressed by all of that. I think it is a big fucking deal that you were presenting at a company wide conference in Vegas. I love how much you love to mentor, and I know that that means something to you. But I also need to, as gently as possible here, tell you what I hear in your summary of yourself and your life. Check, 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 and check. You have checked off a list of things to most people that would probably make up a really good life. Are these the things, Joan, that make up a good life for you? Are these things you value and find important? Are these things meaningful to you? Because while admirable, it also sounds like the stuff so many of us are spoon fed or force fed over the years regarding who we should be and what we should want. And I am happy for you that you have these things and that you've accomplished these things. But are these the things you decided you wanted for yourself? Or are they just the things you think you should want? I sense in your letter a disconnection from yourself. I might be way off base here, and I hope I haven't royally offended you with this. But on the off chance that you might need this, consider this your personal invitation to reintroduce yourself to yourself. Or maybe you simply need to introduce yourself to yourself for the first time. Get to really know yourself, Joan, because I think Wise Mind is finally telling you that the coast is clear. I think that's why you've written to me. And more than getting in front of a room in Vegas, I think this might actually be what it is you really need to hear from me. And hold on, Joan. Whew, okay, deep breath. This is what happens when I go on vacation, people. Because I have a little bit more to say, my friend. While we are here in this moment together, I want to remind you of what I have said on the show so many times before. Trauma brain wires us for protection, but we are wired for connection. I know you were connected to people in your life. I heard that. Check, check, check. Remember? But here's the thing, Joan. Over the years, I have known so many women who have done just as you have. You've gone vanilla, who they stay between the lines, they work on not needing much, they're experts at staying out of the way and avoiding the spotlight. And here's something you all end up having in common. You end up feeling lonely. Being vanilla means you're never really known, never really seen. Your impulse to avoid being seen at work was so automatic that you hardly noticed it. You were considering your friend for the opportunity before you were considering yourself. And that sounded familiar to me. It sounded like other women who know their friends better than their friends know them. I sense you keep yourself buttoned up across the board lest you make waves, but someone who wants a frisky and sporty sports car might be ready to make some waves. And someone who wants to rock climb has some unattended adventure in her. And I have a hunch that none of the people in your life know this about you. And if they don't know this about you, Joan, they probably really don't know you. I know a part of you probably wanted to keep your letter to me just as buttoned up, and I imagining opening any kind of Pandora's box here feels really intimidating. But Wise Mind is showing up for you right now. It's telling you that you are ready to be seen and to be known. If you've been following me for a while, you know I have a plethora of information about this. You can review that third and fourth episode of the show. You can go back to the sixth episode of the show where I talk about perfectionism and people pleasing. And it's probably also a good idea for you to go back and listen to episode 34. That one was the blueprint for finding healthy love after neglect. I don't put all of this here to admonish you for being single or to in any way imply that healing means going and getting yourself coupled up. I don't believe either of those things to be true, but I do know that many perfectionists and many people pleasers tend to isolate and avoid closer relationships. And once they start doing the work, they have no clue how to start connecting. I didn't want to just lead you to this water without also offering you a source to drink from. Start with the work there. Go slow, go easy, show yourself grace, hold your little girl self's hand and let her know that you've got her. Take your time. This isn't work that should be binged or rushed. It's not going to stick if it is. You'll just hear all of this as some good idea, and then you'll put it in a someday category and you'll file it away. And it's important to me that you integrate what I'm saying here so you can implement it into your own life. Then, Joan, I need you to take one more good old fashioned big breath with me because I do have two more not so little things I want you to consider. I want you to consider removing the censor you have placed on your life. It's just this spur of the moment letter to me. You mentioned minimizing the vacation you did take. That makes me wonder where else you want to go and what else you would want to do. What adventures would you take if you could be guaranteed everyone would just rally around you and be happy for you? You mentioned wanting to rock climb. Why haven't you? And what other things have you wanted to try and learn? You already know that you've muted your choice for a car and for a home. Where else might you have put the mute button on in your life? And might you be willing to start dialing up that volume just a notch or two or three? Trauma brain might kick in even thinking about this, and you might start to feel dysregulated and scared of showing up for your life in this way. But this letter, Joan, it's telling you that you are ready for more. That's what I'm hearing in between the lines, and you asked me to listen for what I heard in between the lines. Now, my friend, I am encouraging you to listen to yourself. And then lastly, Joan, one more thing. Can you reconsider your story of success and money for yourself? Because it is really clear to me that you have one. You might be muting opportunities to be more successful in an attempt to stay in between the lines. And your mom's harsh comment about the handbag, we know it isn't the only one she's made. So you might think that being successful or having money makes you dirty or less than somehow. And that is simply not true. Money mindset and success mindset are whole conversations of their own. But my quick take on this is that money and success don't change us. They don't make us selfish and they don't separate us from our people. Sometimes, yes, their jealousy might do that. And yes, some people might self select out because of that. But that's about them and has absolutely nothing to do with you. In the end, money and success allow us to be more of who we are. So, as people, we find ourselves to be generous, kind, open hearted. Money and success allow us to be more of those things. If we're selfish, opportunistic, and think the world is out to screw us, money and success will make us more that way. Again, in between the lines of your letter, I heard a discomfort with wealth and success, and I would encourage you to challenge that. Joan, I am so very glad you listened to the whisper and wrote to me. And I am so glad too that you so readily let me help you and coach you through what you had originally written to me about. I suspect you thought we were done after that, and I suspect you might have felt like you were in the clear to go and button yourself up again. I hope you will hear my encouragement to not do that. I hope you listen intently on that whisper that tells you that you're ready for more because you are, and I really believe that. You, my friend, are in a community of women around the world who are listening to you, who believe in you, and who are rooting for you in your next big adventure. They are in it with you, and I most definitely am too. Bye for now. I do hope you enjoyed today's conversation. If you have a question you'd like me to consider for the show, please do email me over at heather@daughtersnpd.com. You are always welcome to share your story or questions by recording yourself using the voice app on your phone. For best recording quality, please do record directly into your phone without using headphones or Bluetooth speakers. We're building an incredible community as well over on Instagram, and I'd love to see you over there too. You can find us at Daughters NPD. Lastly, if you love what you've been hearing here on Mayhem and have found the show helpful in your own trauma recovery, please do consider becoming a Mother Mayhem sponsor by purchasing simple scripts for saying hard things. It's a resource I created that provides the right words for the hard conversations, and it covers life, love, and work. You'll find a link for that in the show notes. If you know another woman who needs this conversation in her life, please do share the show with her. Your reviews and social shares help spread the word, and I hope you'll consider doing so. Special thanks to Heather Clark for editing the show. She's in my head and knows what I meant to say when the words come out backwards. Thanks so much for your time today. As always, I'm in it with you. Bye for now.